Welcome to the Family Law Growth Podcast. We interview the nation's fastest growing family law firms to get insights on what is working today. We leave no stone unturned, from intake to the biggest mistakes they've made while scaling to multi-7 figures and 8 figures. I'm your host, Elliot, co-founder of Empirical 360. Let's dive into the episode. All right, so welcome to the next episode of the Family Law Growth Podcast. I am joined with none other than Rob from TampaDivorce.com. TampaDivorce.com. The reason I said that 3 times is Rob is a branding expert. He said that after all of his videos that we did with him. So I heard that so many times. Every time I see it, I can't help but saying it 3 times in my head. So Rob, who are you? What the heck do you do?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the pod. I'm Attorney Robert Angstadt. I'm the managing partner at TampaDivorce.com, TampaDivorce.com, which is a family law. Yeah.
By the end of this episode, I promise all of you, if you have referrals in Tampa, you're going to send them to TampaDivorce.com. So I'm excited for Rob here to be on today's episode because he has had some crazy growth, in the past. I guess it's almost been like, a year of knowing him. And what I like about it is he is very much, he loves being an attorney, right? And I think that's kind of a given for a lot of people who listen. But he also has, I think, quite a good sales background. And when those two merge, you could just see like his firm has really, exploded. So Rob, can you tell us a little bit about the firm? Like, when did it start? How many people are working there? How many, give us an idea of the lay of the land.
Sure. So I started the firm in February 2019. My wife was super excited about it because she was very much pregnant with our son. We had a mortgage to pay, but it was just time. It was time. So off we went. So I started in February 2019. We started, home office with a laptop, me by myself, 17 clients, 7,000 in the bank, and a pregnant wife and a mortgage to pay. We quickly grew, got an executive suite space, and then added a second, and then ultimately bought a building in 2021, occupied half of it, and we just took over the second half a couple months ago, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And so, when you first started, how did you start getting clients, right? Your name is honestly killer, but what was your first consistent source of clients?
Yeah, the first consistent source of clients was repeat clients or referrals from when I was at a bigger firm. I came from a very large firm for family law. It had about 20 attorneys, 8 or 9 offices throughout the state. And when those people had recurring issues, they would Google me by name, and then they would find me that way. Or if they had friends or referrals, the number of people that just found me, which was astonishing when you first start, because Google makes you go through so many things just to even exist on the internet. And then once you're there and the phone is ringing, of course, at that time, it was just me answering the phone. So yeah, there's just a lot of steady referrals and repeat customers that got us going.
That's interesting. I've never heard that part before, where people from the previous firm are just Googling your name. So I guess for people listening, make sure you can easily find your name out there or buy your name if you're running Google Ads, right? So how did you kind of stoke the referral pipeline? Did you do anything to just continue getting them? What was your thought process around getting more clients? Or was it ever like a big worry of yours getting clients, or did they just kind of come in naturally?
No, first getting started, it's an incredible worry to get clients. People that usually start their own firms are already successful in that industry. Like, I was already a good attorney. I knew what I was doing, but that doesn't matter if nobody can find me. So, getting on Google is very important. Developing referral sources. I did B&I back in the beginning. I, joined the Hillsborough County Bar. We have a referral association here where you pay them a percentage of anything they send you. And then, just developing those relationships, always being polite to the people that are the decision makers, making sure that they know that I personally appreciate their referrals. And that really just helped a lot, giving updates, making sure that the people they referred are happy, because if someone refers a client to you and they're unhappy with the result, then you've just lost a referral source. So really, it's doing a great job for that person that was referred to you, who will thank the person that referred you. And that just develops a better relationship to keep growing that referral base.
All right, I hope you're enjoying the episode. So if you are struggling to grow your family law firm and you would love to be in the room with other 7-figure and 8-figure family law firms, like some of the guests we have on this podcast, go ahead and click the link in the description and you can learn about our workshops that we do. So we do workshops every single quarter with family law firms where we dive into marketing and non-attorney sales specifically for family law firms. Now, what's awesome about these workshops is A, you get to learn from people actually doing it, so 8-figure family law firm owners, and then you get to break off into small groups and pick the brain of the subject matter experts that actually do the function that you're trying to solve for. So if you want to come to one of our workshops, go ahead and book a call. We'll chat about it. I'll let you know when the next one is and see if it's worth coming out to. Do you ever like ask different, like in BNI or in those groups when you were in them, like for people just, let's say, starting out, did you ask openly for referrals or did you ask for business or reviews? Like what was your go-to to boost that up a little bit?
Absolutely. One of the hardest things to get in business is reviews from happy clients, right? It's very rare that you would go to a Chili's and, have a fajita delivered and it was very good. And then you leave and you go home. Unhappy, if there's a bug in your fajita, you're definitely leaving a review. So with getting reviews, we are very aggressive. With getting those reviews, we have a link that we have. It's a bit.ly review Tampa divorce. And we send that out to the client upon the conclusion of every case or after a major hearing win. Try to get it to them while it's still fresh and in their minds. As far as referrals, that one has to be more carefully treated, right? Because how many times have we got a message on Facebook or a text from someone we haven't talked to in years, and they can't go 5 minutes into a conversation without asking you for something, which immediately poisons that conversation. So really, it's about just developing relationships in the community. Even in BNI, the value is really just that repeated weekly consistent contact. So they would learn who I am, learn, me personally, the business to their knowledge, which gave them the confidence of giving referrals. When I was in that group, we'd have people that would just show up and try to pass out their business cards, to which we're all just like, I don't know you from anyone else. It's really about, you have to establish that trust and relationship first, and then ask for the referrals. And again, while you're representing someone to get that review, you are establishing that trust and relationship. I would never say, hey, thanks for signing up. Here's your retainer agreement. Hey, by the way, you want to review me before you even get started? No, you have to actually develop that trust and prove your worth before you can ask for that review.
So when did you start like really wanting to put the pedal to the metal and grow the firm? Like what was there like a turning point where you hired your first associate? Like what did that look like for you? And then why did you do that?
Yeah. I've always had a type A personality. I've worked my way up. I was enlisted in the Navy when I went through my own divorce. I was not an attorney, and that drove me to try to create at some point, which seemed laughable back then. But here we are, to create the firm that I wish I had representing me. Because I got to experience divorce from that client side, that the powerlessness, that feeling I would never want anyone to feel going through their own case. And then just seeing the bill come in every month and looking at it, just horrified, right? Because here I was enlisted in the Navy making maybe $3,000 a month net. And the bill was coming in at more than that. So I had to have family and friends help me out. So I've always had that type A passion. I did my associate's degree one class at a time while on a ship, transferred to shore duty, which I did recruiting specifically to develop sales skills. Got the bachelor's, then got an MBA, and then went to UF Law, where I did extremely well. I think I was 36th or 7th out of my class at 315th. And it was just that passion that pushed me. As far as when I started the business, again, just me and a laptop, the best thing I did was hire someone. I will tell you that now that I have a larger firm, we have 5 attorneys and 8 paralegals, including me, as the payroll is by far our biggest expense. And because it is, there's so much concern with making that very first hire, because you really want to get it right. And I didn't get it right. My first hire wasn't good at all. I brought in an intern, called out of work all the time, not great. But guess what? I did it again, and you have to do it again. And I brought in that intern. She was great. I hired her full-time once she graduated college. And then, she was my paralegal for a while until she went off to law school herself, and now she's a lawyer out doing big things. As far as like when I really put the pedal to the metal, this really happened in the last, I'd say, year or two. So like the first couple of years, we were just, trying to stay afloat. We were doing okay, but not spectacular. And that was where I really learned the value of marketing. Because again, I'm super risk averse. The firm has no debt at all. But, really had to get that marketing established, to get the website so that if people do find you, they're not like, okay, this looks like a Word doc, throw it away. And then, added a paralegal, second paralegal, third paralegal. We bought the building. When I bought this building that I'm in now, it's 3,000 square feet. We occupied half. It was me and one person, me and one paralegal. And then we added, a second and a third and a fourth. And then finally made that leap in hiring a second attorney was just a complete and utter game changer. That happened 2 years ago in October 2023. I think that's right. Yeah, October 2023. She's now my partner. Made her partner in September, and I was blessed. It was a law school classmate reached out, said, "Hey, my firm's shutting down. Do you know anyone looking?" And I was like, "Goodbye dinner, hello partner." And yeah, I just brought that in really, and that's really what pushed it. And then, last year, because we put that staff in place to be able to grow, that's when I, reached out to Elliot and Eric at Empirical 360. Actually, they sent me cookies. They're really good, by the way. The banana cream pie especially. And, we took a major risk. We went from a marketing budget of about $3,500 a month to quite a bit more. And again, you don't have to go that high, but I made that conscious decision to go as high as I could. And it's just been crazy. For example, our revenue in 2023 was 950,000. Last year, it was 1.4 million. And this year, we're on track to do between 2.3 and 2.5. And quite frankly, I just don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Again, we've had, in the last 3 weeks alone, we're recording this on a Wednesday. So last 3 weeks alone, we've had 23 new clients. And that includes 9 on the week of Thanksgiving, which is usually a complete dead time and right before Thanksgiving. But those clients weren't people that called that week. It was that pipeline that we had developed over the past, I think people are calling from January before. I mean, just developing that pipeline really helped. And yeah, it just made it easy. And then we added a third attorney and a fourth attorney and a fifth attorney. And once you get in that groove, it becomes a lot easier. The biggest challenge is that first hurdle of, okay, when can I add that attorney? When can we add a second attorney? Can I really afford that? Because yeah, again, payroll is very expensive. But once they're in place and once they're doing well, making your clients happy, providing great work, and most importantly, making my life easier, then you just keep going, pour the fire on the gas.
So, and was it the fact that you had staff that you had to feed that made you want to grow, or did you always want to grow a business? Or like, because some people are like, I just want to be a business owner, I want to scale a firm. Others are like, they just kind of, it happens and the growth happens. What was it that made you, because it sounds like it just kind of happened a little bit, like not on its own, but did you have the motivation to like grow a firm to, massive levels and stuff like that? Or like, what is that? How did that start?
I did, for sure. I've always had that type A just drive to grow and succeed. And I'm not the kind of person that where I'm going to do something and then just kind of be just good enough, So I've always wanted to grow. As far as the staff, and again, we've just grown, especially the last year. We went from this time last year, we had 2 attorneys and 6 paralegals, and now we have 5 attorneys and 8 paralegals. So it wasn't really about feeding them. It was more of, I'm going to grow. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I always ask, as a business owner, will this generate revenue? So we don't have a receptionist, because why am I going to pay someone to sit up at the front and not generate revenue? So, and that's the same question I always have anytime I talk to, Eric, Austin, Elliot, people at Empirical, is will this generate revenue? And if it's yes, then let's go. Let's do it. So once you get really comfortable with it, and again, it's that inner drive, but anyone can do this. It's really just about putting in the time, putting in the effort, and making sure that you're using your time efficiently.
So how did you feel? Like you said, you had a first hire that didn't work out. Did that make you gun shy to hire your first attorney? And how do you feel now compared to when you hire an attorney, right? Like the first one, for people listening, if they haven't hired their first one, or let's say they hired their first one, it didn't work out. How did you get over that pretty much? Like,
yeah,
what were the thoughts around it?
Absolutely. So the first one that didn't work out was actually when I was looking for staff. So I've been very blessed and fortunate that all 4 of our attorney hires have been home runs. Yeah, we've never had a full-time attorney leave our firm. We had one with a 1099 where it just was clear it wasn't going to work out, because they were also trying to 1099 here and 1099 there. And it's like, hey, are you working for us at all? Like, well, why am I sending you money? I don't know what's happening here. So that didn't work out, but we had already been pretty well established. But no, for the first staff hire, yeah, it didn't work out. It was disappointing because, when you invite someone, especially when you're getting started, or even any time like now, you're not just hiring someone, you're inviting them to join your universe, your firm, the thing that you project to clients. Because I'm the face of the firm. There's no doubt about that. So if they have a bad experience with someone that I hire, they reflect it on me. So we can't have that. But no, the first hire, it was disappointing. But I just knew that that's just part of life. I've been fortunate. This is a second career for me. I was in the military first. And just because you have a bad experience with one person doesn't mean you should stop. You just got to get back on the horse. Just keep going.
And now, like, how do you feel when you hire attorneys? Is it just like business as usual, or you still get a little bit of like, how am I going to feed this person? Or like, does that ever cross your mind, or not so much anymore?
we're blessed to not have a shortage of work at all. There's plenty of work. It's really with attorneys, it's just about being more and more selective. With the staff, there's trial and error with a lot of staff because it's very hard to tell someone based on their resume. Like you can see where they worked, but we don't have performance reports. We have no idea how they worked. And if you call that place, all they can tell you is, oh yeah, they worked here from this date to this date. They're not going to say, oh, this is our top performer, you should hire right away. And then if you get references provided by a candidate, they're hand selected to tell you exactly what they want you to hear. So with staff, we've had a little more in and out, but again, we just keep going. We just keep going. And, as someone told me, slow to hire, quick to fire. And, we are committed at tampadores.com to providing top quality service to our clients, to basically be the firm that I wish I had when I was going through my divorce. And if someone's not cutting it, then they can't be here.
Nice. Yeah, totally agree. Standards are everything, right? So what would you say your best investment was early on that really helped the firm? Because like you got a great office. I think that helps. You got good attorneys, good part. Like what was the biggest one that really was like the linchpin for you?
The best investment was buying this building in 2021. I know during COVID and even now in 2025, there's a lot of people that say, well, oh, I can do that work remotely. I despise remote work with a passion. I've tried it 3 or 4 times with people. It has worked a grand total of 0 times. So having a place to put everyone, our own office. And I know there's a lot of firms out there that started like I did, where, we have one office within a 10 office executive suite. And that's okay, but you have other businesses, in the hallway, other businesses walking in, or you have your own clients walking in the front door and they're like, who are you here for? Tampa Divorce? Oh, I think they're in that back office over there. Really getting your own dedicated space, and then you can fill it out. It was amazing how easy it was to fill out the space once we had it, because just, again, it's all about presentation. We're presenting success to the client by having our building, having our name on the building, not just on a sticker on my door next to another business on a door sticker, another business on a door sticker. Really that building, which gave us the space to grow, to expand. And that way, if I have a question from anyone on my team, they're either that way, or that way. They're all in a circle that I can get to immediately, and they can get to me.
So do you have clients? At what point do you have clients come in the office, or do you? Is it just really the staffing that you think makes the biggest difference?
Clients come in less than they used to, for sure. Like a lot of our initial consultations will be on the phone, or we offer Zoom consults, or in person. But most people, just for convenience, life's busy. I get it. They prefer the phone. But we do have clients come to our office. We offer mediations, where our client, they're just not comfortable, like especially if it's a senior client, and even if the mediation or the hearing for court is on Zoom, they don't know how to operate a computer that well, or even if they do, not at a comfort level where, oh my goodness, I'm going to be in court. So they'll come in. So yeah, we have 2 conference rooms here, and clients do like coming in. I've had in-person consultations. I've had people, I've even had, potential hires tell me that they really like the office environment. So it's really a great investment all around. And the clients do come in. We've had walk-ins because, as you can imagine, tampadores.com is on the website. It's below my name, and it's on the front of the door twice.
It's crazy. It's walk-ins, good old walk-ins. So and I want to touch on this a little bit, right? Because, different guests on this podcast, some people are in production, some people are out of production. Rob happens to still go to court, right? A lot of you that are listening are in the same exact boat. So how do you, and again, right, I see Rob's social media. It's fun because he always goes to all these fun places, a lot of stuff with his kids. So how do you manage all of it? Like, what is the real story pretty much of how do you do the sales? How do you go to court? How do you manage your team? How do you still have a good family life, right? He has got some young kids and stuff. How do you do that? Because it seems very tough.
I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. That's the challenge about time, right? So I had an epiphany, especially as it relates to family. In 2020, I was growing this business. I mean, COVID just made the family law industry go nuts. People could live with each other nights and weekends, but when it became 24/7, 365 in COVID, not so much. So that we really blew up a lot in 2020. And I looked back at New Year's of 2021, and I said, I looked at my son, he's now 6, and I looked and I said, oh my goodness, I just missed the last year of your life, because I'm coming home after he's already in bed. I'm getting up. I mean, I would come home, I would try to rush home, like 8, 9 o'clock, and then I'm going to hop back on the computer anyway, and it'd be devastating to find him already in bed. And if we can't do it for our families and our kids, then why even bother? So I set very clear boundaries that I violate quite a bit, but I try to set clear boundaries, which is work, home is home. And we do our best with that. I am still in production. Last week alone, I was in a trial Monday, which I won. Yeah, I overcame
Yeah.
that rebuttable presumption of 50-50. So my client has majority time. On Tuesday, I had a pre-trial conference where the judge more or less encouraged us in a very strong, judgy way to resolve it in my favor after hearing both sides make their presentation on what was going to be introduced at trial. And then in the meanwhile, we were also signing up clients and managing a business and interviewing candidates. The best thing that I've done is where I now have consultation blocks. So you don't need to have morning consult blocks, right? Because people are going to call overnight. They're going to call in the morning. The empirical marketing machine is 24/7, 365. So they're going to call over the week and they're going to call in the morning. So create afternoon consult blocks. And you'll notice this, and I noticed this, that Mondays is enormously busy. So I'm talking 1 to 5. Tuesdays enormously busy, and it kind of tapers out as the week goes on. So I try to use like Fridays for either consults or drafting, and I've had to train the team too, that they need to know, because before they would see a consult block and they'd put a question in there or a meeting in there. And I had to train them over time saying, no. The consult blocks do not get touched. So virtually every day on my calendar in the afternoons, unless I'm in court or at a mediation, I do have, good solid 4 or 5 hours of consultations. And quite frankly, I'll stay late if I need to get those done, which often happens. But then once I leave the office, go home. And other than these pesky things, try not to do too much work.
Nice. So just really diligent. And if you're curious, you just got to follow Rob on social. You'll see he does all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, how the heck is he doing all this? But so really diligent with the time blocking then, and then obviously communicating that to the team. Do you have someone that manages the schedule for you, or do you just block it yourself? Like, how do you tactically do that? Because it's very tough to be diligent with that.
It is. So we have some sub teams in the office. So again, we have 5 attorneys, 8 paralegals, and 2 of our paralegals are very much focused on marketing. They attend the marketing meetings with me. They do most of the consultation intakes. They do a lot of the follow-ups, the vast majority of them. And they also put the consult blocks on my calendar, and we'll schedule it weeks out because, I got their buy-in because by having them do the consults, having them do follow-ups, if they go to my calendar and they have this follow-up that they've been chasing for months, and then they look at my calendar and there's nowhere to put them, then they've just done it for nothing. So, they're invested too in the firm's growth and success, and they protect those blocks fiercely, and the rest of the team respects them. So it works out really well.
Nice. That's interesting. So get buy-in from them on the consult blocks, because a lot of people look down on like just doing consults, which is why you're here. Honestly, I just love how aggressive you are in doing them. So do the paralegals, if they're helping you follow up and stuff like that, do they get any incentives or anything like that for doing that, or is it just part of their job description and you kind of hold them to that?
It's a hybrid, so it is part of the job description. But again, as I've expanded their roles, I've increased their salary, given spot bonuses after good weeks. We do annual bonuses based on the the overall firm performance plus the individual performance, because we use Clio to track everything, and Clio will give you a individual employee specific report for how much they billed, how much revenue they generated, and then I just know that, hey, I had all these consults. It's because of these 2 specific people. So yeah, definitely through spot bonuses, through extra time off, through just, making them feel appreciated, through firm events such as our holiday party, through random lunches, just little things like that, or through, hey, there's this magic, extra $500,000 that just appeared on their paycheck for no reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I like that too, because then they're not only hardcore like sales. They're just incentivized because they want to do a good job, and you built some incentives around there, not hardcore sales commissions. So I'd love to transition, because again, I think Rob, he closes, he gets a lot of business in the door, and he's still, for those of you thinking like, I'm in production, how could I possibly do consoles, right? Like, he is doing it. So he's proof that it's possible. I'm secretly working with Rob to get him out of all of that, right? I want him just on the boat every day. But what does your sales process look like? You mentioned you don't have a receptionist. So how do calls flow in? What happens to the call? Give me the full rundown on the sales process.
Sure. So we have a voice over IP, and then so the phone will ring. So people, we have a single unified number. That phone will ring with 8 paralegals. They all have set hours, and then we all have a set intake sheet that they follow. And the one reason I like having paralegals do it is because they have a baseline knowledge of family law. Because sometimes people will call up and they expect whoever answers the phone to be able to answer their question, which paralegals cannot get legal advice. But, they can say, hey, look, I understand that. We've dealt with that before. And, this is a great question for the attorney, but they have some background so that they sound confident instead of, I have no idea, man. I just need your phone number so we can schedule a consult. Like that's not that positive first experience. So we do have a sheet they follow and go from there.
So paralegal does the sheet. How long is that call roughly? And then what happens after that call if they're qualified to come in?
Sure. So it's about 10 to 20 minutes on that initial, what we call our intake call. And then that gets them on the calendar for my calendar, or if I'm not available, we have another attorney that serves as my backup for the consultations. Our goal is same day or next day. If they call on Thursday and you're not getting them on the calendar till Friday, actually, if they call on a Thursday and they have to wait till Monday or even Friday, they're going to call somebody else. And I can't tell you how many, and a lot of times when I was first starting out, I was 24/7. Like I said, in 2020, I was Mr. Family Time because I'd see a call come in. Hey, you got to be very quick, and that's why it's so key to protect those blocks. For the consultations, we do free consultations. I know there's a lot of give and take about whether we do free or whether we should charge, but I've just learned, yes, there's some people that have no chance of affording you. We do tell them up front what our minimum initial retainer is before they ever talk to me, and sometimes that will deter some people away. But in my mind, people will find the money. And this is especially true in family law. Again, we're not just talking about their kids. We're talking about their parents' grandkids. We're talking about their siblings, nieces and nephews. So a lot of times, like by charging this barrier to entry, I wouldn't have that there. I would have free consults, give the call. And then once that potential client has buy-in, they have a whole set of resources around them to be able to help pay you for your time in essence.
So in your mind, right, the consult is your opportunity, obviously, to help them understand the gravity of the situation, because maybe they haven't thought it through, and then they can come up with the money.
Exactly. And really the consults too, to like learn about, what their position is. Because a lot of people, they have no idea. And Google gives bad advice all the time. Family law is very state specific. What happens here in Florida may be completely different. I think there's other states, I think Texas, but don't hold me to that, I'm not a Texas attorney, allows the kid to have input on where they live at 15. We don't have that in Florida. So it's really just to get a full and complete understanding of what matters to them and how our firm can meet those needs. There's sales language there for you.
There it is. I saw it for a second, the sales guy. So how long are your consults typically? Are they an hour, 20 minutes? What does that look like?
Because they are free, we set them for 30 minutes.
Okay.
Because if I had the whole day of free consults, it'd be hard because I also have to do, I am still in production. I do need to review pleadings or draft, advanced pleadings or agreements or attend mediations or court. So we limit them to 30 minutes, but if the conversation's going well and I can see it going somewhere, and I don't just mean that they're going to sign up. I mean, that it's interested because I get invested too, right? So then we'll go over, but we do try to stick with that 30 minutes when possible.
So how do you reconcile in your mind, this is, I think, a big one. How do you reconcile in your mind that hour of 2 consults that you did that maybe didn't turn into clients was not a billable hour? Like, how do you accept that, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. But again, that's just not been my mindset because the good news about my size is I have 4 other attorneys that are billing during that time and 8 others paralegals. So my job as the head of the firm, the face of the firm, is to feed them. So if they're billing well, whether I get, and again, we have good weeks, we have bad weeks. I mean, I think our best week was 16 new clients with 18 new matters. Our worst week in the last year was probably 2. So and again, it's all about building that pipeline, just like the week of Thanksgiving I gave where we had 9 new clients. I think 5 of those were people I had talked to in previous weeks. So it's not really something that can be saying, okay, I just hung up the phone after 2 consults for an hour. I just lost a billable hour because they didn't pay on the spot. Because you really don't know. They could come back in a week. They could come back in 6 months. They could make the horrible mistake of going with Marble Law, and then they come back in 6 months and we have to fix their case. But yeah.
Yeah, no. And what like how I reconcile it is he keeps saying pipeline. For those of you, if you don't know what that means necessarily, I always view it as like wine barrels. You put them down there for 9 months and then they're ready. And, it's like you're just storing it away, but you're also trying to help people. I think people lose sight of that, right? Like they just, it's all transactional. But so in your consult, you do a 30-minute consult. Mm-hmm. And again, Rob gets many clients. What does the conversation sound like? Because a lot of times either and I'm curious for this for my own knowledge, honestly, too, is we have people that do non-attorney sales, and that conversation sounds a specific way. We have an episode on that. Then you have your typical attorney consult where they're giving lots of legal strategy, legal advice. Does yours fall anywhere in the between, or are you skewing one way or the other?
Yeah, it'd probably be somewhere in between because I know some attorneys that they basically are just giving legal advice the whole consult, and that's not a recipe to get a client. I mean, really, what I'm trying to do is, get just listen to them. I always start the conversation with like, hey, I'm Attorney Robert Angstadt. What I'd like to do is talk with you about your situation, but more importantly, hear from you what your goals are, and then I'll tell you how we can help. How does that sound? So, get that buy-in from the very first get-go. And then I kind of, I go through the notes that I have because they've given notes to our intake team. So before they even talk to me, I already know their address. I know if they have kids. I know their income, the other side's income, if there's a case filed, and anything else they want us to know. So I already have that, little perspective. So a lot of times that opening, if they have children, I'll say, hey, most importantly about you and your goals, especially as it relates to, and whatever they said was most important, whether it's keeping your home or especially as it relates to, little Jack and Jill, the kids. So really, and then just kind of let them talk because people, a lot of times they're so nervous to call. They've never been through anything like this in their life. And I know because I've been there, and they really just want to be heard and be told that everything's going to be okay. They don't care what statute applies or the name of the case law that I'm going to use. It's really, look, okay, I've listened to you. I've heard you. Let me confirm that these are your goals. Okay, here's how we can meet your goals. And then ultimately, give them the opportunity to close, which is to pay the retainer fee.
I love that. I mean, so a couple things there that I want to like highlight that I think is super important if you're listening to this is the fact that he has skilled people answering the phones, right? Skilled people, and they're doing an extended intake, about 20 minutes, roughly, you said, and they're gathering all those details. Now, the transfer of that to him and then him reiterating that shows that you guys have your stuff together. I don't know if it'll blank out on YouTube. So it shows that you guys have your stuff together. And to me, it also kind of brings back the feeling of like, you guys are a well-run machine. It's almost like visiting a doctor again. Because right now I think family law has kind of it doesn't have a bad name, but like people are a little less trusting than they used to be. Like it used to be, you're an attorney, I'm going to hire you, I trust you. Now it's like you're an attorney, but I can go shop around and I'm trying to find the lowest price, person. And it's very much an Amazon culture. I want it cheap. I want it now. I want it today on my front porch. But if you guys do that, where you reiterate their goals and stuff, it makes sense why you're closing the way you are closing. So do you find any things that really help you, in that consult, not give advice? Like how much advice are you giving? Are you giving any, or are you just really hearing them?
Most of it I'm listening. A lot of it I am giving some advice, but I have to be very careful because I don't want to give legal advice because then you create a liability situation where they're like, well, my lawyer told me, and you're like, who? Oh, I talked to you in January and you didn't hire and you didn't sign a retainer agreement. I never filed in your case. No. So we have to be careful of that. Like I will never, ever review a document because some clients will like want to bring in their standard forms and have you help them fill them out. And I won't even look at those. I'll look over an agreement if it's already drafted, but I won't really say anything other than, I don't think this is fair for you and this is why. But, just really limit it. But also, I don't want it to be a pure sales call. I want them to know that we do add value. So I'll give examples from other cases we've had without saying names or any identifying information of, hey, I had a situation very similar to yours, and this is what we've done. And I'm not guaranteeing we can do this for you because I don't know all your facts yet. But this is how we did it before, and this is how we can do it for you.
Interesting. And do you find that if you do that consult for free, there's another worry for some people that it conflicts you out of if the spouse were to come and try and hire you?
We've had that happen where we've done a consult. It's especially fun because, obviously we do this to, we have to be paid for our services. So we've had it where like we'll do a consult with the lower earning spouse. Time will pass, nothing will happen. And then 3 months later, the other side calls and I'm like, right. So, so it does happen, but I think there's so many law firms out there that it would be very difficult. I mean, you'd have to be, because the good ones, we all know each other. We see the same people again and again, the same lawyers. I mean, we see the same exact lawyers all the time. We see the same judges, and every now and then you get someone, from the outside coming in. But for the most part, it just doesn't really happen. So I really wouldn't let that concern you. It can happen, of course. There are some people that are just fishing for information and wasting your time. But again, if the volume is there, the pipeline is there, then the good will come from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more so just, a scarcity versus an abundance. There's plenty of fish, unless you're in a tiny town. So then you do the consult, and then you said, because you guys have a very unique process, honestly. Then you don't do the follow up. You hand that back to the paralegal team that did the intake. And does that get like lead assigned? Like, do they get assigned leads, or is it just a pool of leads? How does that work?
Sure. So if they retain, then I'll send out the retainer agreement, or our senior paralegal will, and then the case will get to the senior paralegal, who will basically be the manager of the case until it's filed. So our senior paralegal will, do what we call our intake 2 call, which is more like an interrogation. Tell me where you've lived the last 5 years. Tell me all your address history, and then that gets turned into pleadings, which get drafted by a combination of attorneys and paralegals in the office. And then once it's filed, it's sent out to the team. The ones that don't retain on the spot, they basically, because we track everything in Clio. So we have Clio. Empirical has a client management software that we have logins. We meet every single Monday with our representative from Empirical, and so we are tracking them constantly. And the idea is to 24, 48, 36 hours after the consult, hit them up, and then maybe a little less, like once a week or once every other week. We also have automations. What that means is we basically hit a button in the Empirical 360 tracker, and they start getting text, just like a reminder for an appointment. They get an automated text. Hey, you spoke with us on this date. We're happy to help. If you're ready to move forward, here's a link to proceed to pay. And again, I've always been a big believer of erring on the side of caution. I'm not one that's like, well, should I really call them? Just call them. I mean, remember, they called us, they went through the process, they filled out that contact form. That takes time. The worst they can say is no. And a lot of people have actually hired us months later, and they say, thank you for doing that, because some people have this like inner sense of, I don't want to say embarrassment, but kind of, where they like talk to me, they know what to do, they know the path, then they go get a cheaper lawyer. And they're embarrassed to call me back, to help, because they think that, oh, I'm going to give them a hard time. And I always tell them, I'm not here to judge, I'm here to help. So err on the side of aggression with follow-ups. If they tell you clearly, don't follow up anymore, then don't follow up anymore. Leave them alone, right? Our automated text is, they have opt-outs. People can opt out. If people tell us not to call again, we won't call again. We're very respectful of people, their boundaries, especially given that this is family law. But until they say no, then it doesn't hurt to keep asking.
Yeah. So, and it's also the mindset too of like follow up as a service, not to like be a giant pain in the butt. If they tell you back off, right? But it's interesting that it's also interesting that you do it so fast after the consult. Most people feel the thought of like, I just did a consult, let me not bother them for a few days, right? And
not me.
Okay. Yeah. It's like going on a good date, and then all of a sudden, they don't hit you back the next day. It's like, what the heck? So when you say do you find that a lot of people will retain you on the spot, or is it heavy follow-up pipeline? Like, what is the skew there, if you had to take a guess?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, I'd probably say maybe 30, 70, 30 on the spot, 70 some point a week to a month later. Because I got to remember, what we do is primarily divorce. It's in the name, tampadivorce.com, which, by the way, buying that URL was $7,000, and that was the best initial investment I've ever made. It has paid for itself 20 times over. You got to remember, this is a very difficult thing, right? These people live together. They have children together. Some people have been together for years, and we're talking about an extreme life change where it's like, okay, something has happened to that moment where they're ready to, in essence, blow that up. Whether it's for a good reason or a bad reason or no reason. If Florida's a no-fault state, you don't have to have a reason. So with those, a lot of people call, and that's again why a lot of the consult's not about direct sales. It's about building that relationship, building that trust, so that way when they are ready, which they may not be ready. I mean, right now it's December. A lot of people I don't do anything until the holidays are over. No problem, and they'll be back in January. And then there's other people, about 30%, where, hey, I just got served, or hey, I just found out he or she is cheating on me, or I just found out he or she has this secret account and they're just blowing all this money or raising all this debt, and we have no future financially together, for whatever reason there is. But for the most part, I'd say it's 70-30.
Okay. It's good to know for the people listening that not on the spot, lots of pipeline, follow up, right? Follow up as a service. So last question for you. If you were starting from scratch today, right, and somebody's starting their firm, what advice would you give them on if they really want to grow? Like out of the gate, they kind of know that in their heads. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. My first year, I was in my own way. because I'm very fiscally conservative. Like I said, the firm has no debt. But now that everything's in place and I see how smoothly it runs, I would even say borrow to do it, right? Invest in yourself, invest in your firm's future, which when it's just you, is it really a firm? Yeah, but it feels much more firm when it's there. So even if you have to incur debt, get those people in place, get the good paralegal. If you can get another attorney, do it from day one, invest in marketing. It takes time for Google to catch up to really learn that you are the trusted source for what you do in your area. So invest that money and you'll get it tenfold. Think of it this way. If you spend $5,000 a month on marketing, which seemed completely insane to me 3 years ago, then you get one new client, you could recoup that $1,000 or that $5,000 with a single client. So again, just do that investment, but of course you're going to recoup much more than that as long as you have people ready to answer the phone. I got tampadivorce.com. My name is very hard. We started out as the Angstadt Family Law Center. And if I was telling that to someone, they'd be like, how do I spell that? And I'm like, okay, you're right. Don't have an ego. It's not about whose name's on the door, because my name's not on the door and I don't care. I don't care at all. I have no ego in this. It's about growing a firm. So whether it's tampadivorce.com, orlandodivorce.com, wherever your city may be. And again, it's what matters to you as far as growing that firm. You're building a brand. A firm is so much more than just the people inside the office or the person who started it. Again, no ego. It doesn't help you. Just put it aside, build a brand. And again, Morgan & Morgan, that's the guy's name, but that's a brand. Everyone knows Morgan & Morgan for the people. So I'd really build a brand, get out there, just build a reputation in the community, and don't be afraid to take risk. It's an LLC anyway. They can't come after you, right? So take the risk, take the debt, and just really invest in yourself and in your future. If I had gotten out of my way a couple of years earlier, who knows what would be. So, don't be afraid.
Well, I'd say you're cooking now. And one thing to piggyback onto that, because I think it's and I don't see this too often, but I do see it where, the founding attorney thinks they're too good to do sales or they're too good to pick up the phone, right? And they have to bill because that's what lawyers do, right? But when you step into the business owner shoes, you got to do whatever it takes and, take the risk, but do the work. You can't just take the risk and then hope it works. I think that's important for the people listening, is like the market that you guys are in, family law, is so abundant. It's crazy. Well, Rob, it's been awesome having you on here. It's been awesome witnessing the growth. So thank you. If you guys have any referrals, send them to tampadivorce.com, tampadivorce.com,
tampadivorce.com.